So hey guys, StinkyCash here. I've been working on this whole flat earth thing for the last several days. And it's one of the most interesting things I've ever come across. And I'm trying to debunk it or prove it. And I think what my goal is to create like a 3D model to scale, a real model, flat earth model, that shows how everything works, that accounts for everything, the eclipses, the seasons, the days, everything. And then say, here, disprove this. Or, tell me how this doesn't work. Tell me how this isn't perfect, Because, NASA doesn't seem to be able to produce a picture of Earth from space. They're all composites and fakes and paintings and stuff. So I don't know what to believe. So I'm going to question everything. But we do know a few things for certain. Living here on Earth, we can observe a few things. And a few months ago, I moved to Newark, New Jersey, and I live on the 13th floor of a high-rise. And I have a big old window and a balcony. And I've observed a lot of things since I moved in here in June. One of them being is, I moved in on June 1st. And my window faces due west. And around 5, 6, 7 o'clock, I was noticing that the sun was coming through my window, like really extreme, straight through the window. It was baking up my apartment. Couldn't see the TV screen, couldn't see the computer screen. And it was a pain in the butt. But after the summer solstice, as we started heading towards fall and into winter, the sun started to set further and further and further into the south. And it does that until it reaches the winter solstice. And then it comes back. And that's the cycle it does. Okay, so these are things that I've observed just by living here on Earth. So there are a few other rules that we could say we have to account for. Like one, the science community will tell us that the sun is closer to the Earth during winter and further away during summer. And they say it's because in the northern hemisphere, for example, if the sun is further away in the summer, we're getting better angles. And that's why they say it's warmer. And in the winter, they tell us this, that the sun is closer, or that the Earth is closer to the sun in the winter. But the northern hemisphere has a bad angle, which causes winter. So that's a fact. And we need to account for that. The next one is that when the northern hemisphere is in winter, the southern hemisphere is in summer, and vice versa. We can observe this, and this is something we have to account for. This is a fact. So any model we make has to account for that. We also know that the days get longer and shorter, and that the longest day is June 21st, and the shortest day is December 21st. These are known as the summer and winter solstices. The fact that the days get shorter and longer by roughly, 15 minutes a week, I think it is, if you calculate it down, that's a fact. It can't be denied, and we need to account for that in any model we make that proves the Earth is flat. And the last thing we need to account for is what I said before that I observed from my balcony, is that the sun sets further into the south as we head into winter, and then starts heading back north as we approach summer. And if you were to take a picture of the same spot pointed at the sky every single day, you could track where the sun sets every single day. And if you were to put those all together, you could track kind of like the sun's setting path, if you will, right? At the exact same time of the day every day. And this is what it would look like. It takes on this shape, kind of like an 8 or an infinity. So what I have here is a pretty primitive flat Earth map that I drew. And I hung it on my wall. And I'm going to use this just to demonstrate this, okay? I have a flashlight. It's a little flashlight. Now, when you shine a flashlight on the wall, see how the light forms a circle? Now, when the light is closer to the wall, the circle of light gets smaller and smaller. The closer the light source is, the smaller the circle of light. As the light source backs away, the circle of light gets bigger and bigger, which explains why they tell us that the sun is further away when the northern hemisphere, when we are in summer, and the days are longer because the circle of light is bigger. And this explains why the days are shorter when we're in winter time, when they tell us that the sun is closer. But when the sun is closest to the earth, when we're in winter, the southern hemisphere is in summer. And this is because when we're in winter, the sun is closest to the earth, and it's also the furthest out towards the rings. The rings, the outer rings being the southern hemisphere on a globe. Okay, so picture this. When the northern hemisphere, when we're in winter time, is when the sun is closest to the earth. And when the sun is closest to the earth, it's also out further along the outer edge, the outer rings, which on a globe is the southern hemisphere. Which can explain why when we're in winter, the southern hemisphere is in summer. The whole time the sun is circling. Those are the days. Those are the days. And at the winter solstice, the sun is at the furthest out towards the rings. That is why the sun progressively sets further and further into the south as you get closer and closer to December 21st. Then it starts to head back north because the sun starts to back away from the earth. It gets further away, and as it gets further away, the rings also get smaller. And if you were looking at this from Earth, when you combined the shorter rings, combined with the sun being further away, I believe it would look to us on Earth exactly like the golden ratio, the sun ratio. So that's pretty much how I think it works. Wintertime, sun is closer to Earth. Smaller circle of light means shorter days. It's further out towards the edge, so you have a bad angle, which causes winter. Then in summertime, you get a better angle and longer days because you have a bigger circle of light, and it causes summertime. Now, I believe when it gets to the top, it stays there for 31 days around the summer solstice, and when it gets to the edge, it stays there for 31 days when it's at the winter solstice before it starts heading back. And that should explain this image.
So I find it pretty crazy that as I'm trying to do these little experiments, trying to conceptualize the flat Earth, the only way I can make it work seemed to have the sun on that spiral back and forth track that could create the golden ratio. And the golden ratio is what we see everywhere in nature. The name, the golden ratio, the sun ratio. We even find this ratio in sunflowers. Think about that. Everything in nature is this Fibonacci sequence, this golden spiral, the golden spiral, the sun spiral. Everything in nature. So why would our orbit be a circle? Wouldn't it make more sense that the sun is doing a golden spiral? And that's where it's just the grand design. It's just the fingerprint of God. It's proof of his existence. He's the greatest mathematician there ever was. Man did not invent math. Man discovered math. And they're using it. Satan is using it. He hijacked it. He's using technology for evil. I mean, look at the image of NASA's logo. You have the serpent tongue going across it. That's what that red thing is. And even that ring kind of looks like the snake swallowing its own tail, just like Saturn. These are occult symbols. NASA. When I was in Israel, a lot of the Israelis talked about how Israel has all sorts of people in NASA. They've infiltrated NASA. The Zionists run NASA. It's all just a game. It's a joke. Nassholes, I call them. Nassholes that work for NASA. I mean, look at this picture of CERN. And then take a look at the picture of the flat Earth. Kind of similar. Look at the picture of the creepy Saturn house that's in my neighborhood that I found around the corner from me. They have the Earth globes by the front gate, and you see the gate's got the sun. But look at the flower pots, this bullseye. Kind of like the flat Earth, maybe. It's pretty crazy. And what does the Bible tell us? The Bible tells us that, let's read Job 26:10. He hath compassed the waters with bounds until the day and night come to an end. The word compassed means to like circle and enclose, to surround. So if he surrounded the waters, that's really what Antarctica is on this flat Earth map here in Job 26:10. There's a lot of truth in the Bible. We need to read our Bibles. There's a lot of truth in there. A lot of answers right in the Bible, right in the beginning of the Bible, the King James Bible. Right in Genesis 1, it says, "And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." What do you think he's talking about, dividing the waters from the waters? What do you think the flood was? Where do you think that water came from? That was the water above the firmament that he brought down and flooded earth. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and morning were the second day. He created this before the sun. Before the sun. The earth was made before the sun. And in Genesis 1:16 it said, "And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. And he made the stars also." Now, I want to propose a question. To us on earth, the sun and the moon appear to be the same size. They appear to be the same size, but the scientists will tell us that the sun is much larger and much further away. So, if the moon and sun appear to be the same size from our viewpoint here on Earth, that would mean that the size-distance ratio between the sun and the moon has to be perfect. Absolutely perfect size to distance ratio to make those two orbs appear the exact same size to us humans here on Earth. How do you explain that? I don't believe in coincidences like that. That's too much for me. That's way too much for me. So teach the controversy. And I'm going to leave you with this Bible verse. It's the most center verse in the entire Bible. At the heart of it, this is what it says. "It is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man."